Good afternoon. Welcome to the February 19, 2026 meeting of the Sacramento Flood Control Agency Board of Directors. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Thank you. Director Desmond. Here. Director Hume. Here. Chairman Kennedy.
Here.
Director Rodriguez.
Here.
Director Munoz.
Here.
Director Jennings.
Here.
Director Kaplan. Director Pluckybaum. Vice Chairman Holloway.
Present.
Director Johns.
Here.
Director Avdis.
Yep.
Director Hill and Director Stevens.
Here.
We do have a 10-member quorum.
Thank you. Will you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This meeting of SAFCA is being broadcast live on metro14live.saccounty.gov and will be recorded and re-aired on Metro Cable Channel 14 on Saturday, February 21st at 4 p.m. Members of the audience who would like to address the board should fill out a speaker form located here on the lectern and bring it to me. When addressing the board, please identify yourself for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Brings us to public comment. Is there anybody, member of the public that would like to address the board at this time on an item that is not on the agenda? Hearing and seeing none, we will recess into closed session.
Yeah,
For the meeting of the Sacramento Flood Control Agency Board of Directors, would the clerk please call the roll?
Thank you. Director Desmond.
Here.
Director Hume. Chairman Kennedy.
Here.
Director Rodriguez.
Here.
Director Munoz.
Here.
Director Jennings.
Here.
Director Kaplan. Director Pluckybaum.
Here.
Vice Chair. Oh, you snuck in there. Vice Chairman Holloway.
Here.
Director Johns.
Here.
Director Avdis.
here.
Director Baines. And Director Stevens.
Here.
We do have an 11-member quorum.
Thank you. Council, is there anything to report out of closed session?
Nothing reported this time.
All right. Next item, please, Madam Clerk.
Our next item are consent matters, and items 2 through 13 are in order.
Are there any members of the board that would like to comment on something or have an item they would like pulled? Director Avdis,
Yeah, I would like to speak on item 11.
can you just,
We can leave it on consent if you want.
yeah, I just want to read it into the record, and I don't want her to read the whole description. So this is item 11, which is resolution regarding the Valley Rail Sacramento Extension Project.
All right, so thank you, Chair. It's not without mixed emotions that I read that staff report. That property that we're selling a portion of used to be my family's ranch. And was obviously condemned by this organization 30 years ago. And I just wanted to highlight this fact because, there's been collectively a lot of collective memories from that experience. And I just want to acknowledge my dad, who's 97 years old, and we still speak often about the time that property was taken. When we showed up one day and there was a lock on a gate. My folks came here in the early 70s, didn't speak a lick of English, and herded sheep on a ranch outside of Rio Linda, and that ranch was taken from them. We didn't think we were justly compensated with, certainly with hindsight and my perspective that I have now. Certainly I acknowledge the need, but it reminds me of the fact that, all these real property actions have a human component. And I just think that's an important thing to recognize. And I just wanted to say that, and I'll move consent with that.
A second.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Avdis. That is important to keep in mind whenever we do all of these that can look like words on a page and numbers on a spreadsheet. Remember that. Thank you.
Yeah, and I will say, too, thank you for that in my thinking through this. The other part of it is the fact that it's called Wolf Ranch also is another issue that's been, for us, a thorn for us in our collective memory. I mean, the other part of it, the human aspect, is that we are remembered, right? And so, certainly there is that component as well. And again, I appreciate the the board's indulgence with that. Again, it's kind of an emotional thing for me, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Next item, please.
Next item is the Executive Director's Report.
Chair Kennedy, Jason Campbell, Executive Director. So as we all know, there's a number of things still going on in DC. Fortunately, again, we have the approved budget for the Corps of Engineers through the bills that were signed in January. The Corps of Engineers is proceeding with their regular program with our projects up at Folsom and in Natomas, as well as on Common Features 2016. The issues that we may have going forward is getting funding for the Natomas project, so we're continuing to work through those plans. Those plans also include potential funding through a work plan. That work plan from the budget is due on March 24th from the federal government. We don't have high expectations for there to be any funding for Natomas for that project. So also the funding for the dam raise and American River Common Features 2016, as I said, and have said a couple of times now, the appropriations from the Bipartisan Budget Act are fully funding those projects. There are some discussions that are taking place in regarding the release of those funds as they progress down to the district for use of the projects, but we need to keep a little bit of a pulse on this and see how things are going. The Folsom Dam raise may actually need additional funding in the near future, so the discussions regarding those Bipartisan Budget Act dollars is going to be a little bit more intense, I think, over the next couple of years. So again, we are continuing to move forward with the federal 2027 budget preparations and requests for those preparations. We've met once with the ASA and headquarters of Corps of Engineers back in December. We'll continue to follow that up, hopefully with DC advocacy at the end of March. And if that doesn't work out, if we don't have meetings that we can get in the administration or on the Hill, we will definitely try to continue that during the Cap to Cap week, which is also the same week as the National Waterways Conference legislative meeting. So we'll be doing a little bit of double duty on that week, but ultimately we will try to make sure that we get those advocacy components built in for our work. So as we talk about funding and we continue to look at our 5-year plan for cash, as well as just the current environment regarding state funding, federal funding, and our local funding, we're looking at a number of things that we may need to adjust going forward, understanding that we have some opportunities to create some bond funding, refunding. Those refundings could either provide additional savings in our debt service or provide additional money to go towards projects if needed. I think that the latter of those two is probably more likely. So you just approved the consent calendar, and the work will continue now to go forward and evaluate what we want to do with those bonds. The Natomas Basin Series 2014 and the CC82 Consolidated Capital Assessment District Number 2 Series 2016A bonds are what we're looking at currently. We're also in the throes of putting together our 27 budget recommendations. So staff is evaluating those, and included in that is some strategic reductions based on what we're seeing with the progress on the projects, along with the anticipation that there may be shorter funding coming from the state, as well as whether or not the Corps is going to continue at the same pace that they've been working. So we like to make sure that we don't lose track of the adequate progress findings and whatnot, even though we have the new SB 639 extended it to 2030. When we talk about our work with your entities as well as the city and counties, we want to make sure that we're keeping a pulse on what's going on with these certifications. And again, we continue to work through the different efforts to get the levies certified. The certification packages are being prepared as soon as they're ready. We have 4 systems certified. We've talked about that in the past. And we have one-time certifications that are being really managed by our staff and our consultants. And the intent is, once again, to work with the city and the counties to make sure that those certifications in the future, when it's time to recertify after this first pass, that we have all the tools and ready to be able to pass those off to those land use entities. So again, 6 active projects. And overall, we are working on every single one of these. Some of those are a little bit more mature than others, but again, we are trying to make sure that we continue this major program to protect the community, of course. And then the levy certifications, those specifics on the ones that are already certified, you can see the 4 green check boxes on the left side adjacent to the numbers and the levy system that they represent. So those first 4 are squared away. We've got a few more efforts going forward. Obviously, Natomas is a big one. That work continues, of course. But on Magpie Creek and Beach Lake, we still got work that we're doing. And speaking of Beach Lake, we get into the pump station, my favorite part of this presentation. Every week or every month, we kind of show a little bit of an advancement from where we started. Again, the work is progressing. Weather is obviously impacting some of that, but things are moving along pretty well. My friend over here, Gary Bardini, our Deputy Executive Director, prepared a slide deck for the water forum and had some conversations. I'm sorry, RWA, Regional Water Authority, had some conversations and started the dialogue that we want to have in regards to the emergency coordination that really is something that is key to, once these projects are done, the performance doesn't just stop with the dirt and the structures. It also rolls into these emergency operations, and those operations from Folsom are a big part of that. So we want to just continue to raise awareness and continue to make sure that we're prepping for potentially a huge event in the future. What we don't want to do is be surprised, and we want to make sure that we can get people out. So, Gary had a number of slides like this one here. What could go wrong? Well, pretty much everything. But of course, we want to make sure we educate folks and we are prepared for those issues that might pop up. But we also want to talk about those operations and those planning efforts to make sure that everybody has a really good chance to be able to know what to do when the time comes that they need to seek out those evacuation routes or just understand what's going on with the flood control process. As part of that, Gary and team have put together a few slides to kind of identify how we might transition some of the existing forums where we can have conversations about this. This is one example of where we're talking about maybe making some adaptations to the Lower American River Task Force and adjusting some of the content that goes on in those forums. As you can see, this starts to gear a little bit more towards the idea of educating the community, as well as making sure that we have a regular touch on an annual basis right at the beginning of flood season to just kind of reiterate what those efforts might look like and hopefully make a big impact with the rest of the community. And again, this here is just that last little step of who's doing what and why. And again, the one in the middle there, you can see SAFCA as the convener. We're talking about in that same venue, but having that conversation and the parties that might be included to help present and manage that process and bring it forward to get action, hopefully, in the future. That is all I have for this one. And this is a wonderful picture of the Folsom Dam, and the light between the gate and the roof there is what we're trying to close, and we need to get that done. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions? On the emergency planning and all that, you're at the early stages of dealing with like county OES and city OES and all of that?
Yeah, Gary has met with a few folks, and we're working on, with part of the certification of projects, we are putting together plans for each one of those projects that include that emergency operations plan in the event of a flood event. So those pieces are going to get rolled out. We've had initial discussions, Gary. I would maybe turn it over to you real quick.
Yeah, so we've started with some of the technical content from the flood side, and then start some of the conversations now with both the county and city on it. We're also coordinating with the State Operations Center and the Flood Operations Center too. So we're just starting to start socializing some of the things that we're doing on the project side and how that affects the planning and management for the emergency management.
I appreciate that. I asked the question because, I've met with our OES and they do, great work, phenomenal work. but I don't think it gets out to the public as much as it should. I mean, I know that, should there be a catastrophic event in the Pocket Greenhaven, you might have Mr. Jennings and I standing on the top of JFK High School, but other than that, we wouldn't know what to do with very few ingress and egress into a neighborhood of 40,000 people. And so I continue to be concerned, so I'm glad we're having these conversations. So, any other questions, comments? All right, next item, please.
Next item is separate matters. Item 15, resolution of appreciation number 2026022, recognizing John A. Bassett for his contributions to the Sacramento Area Flood Control Agency upon the occasion of his retirement.
Well, Chair Kennedy, again, Jason Campbell, Executive Director. I've been dreading this day for a bit. John is obviously an individual that has been with Safeco almost since the beginning. He actually is the longest standing tenured employee of Safeco. 34 years, 34 years, 4 months and 24 days, I think it is. He's going to do the math and correct me, I'm sure. But ultimately, John has been a stalwart. I mean, he joined our community here, Safeco, in 1993. I think it was October 4th of 1993. And when John got here, he walked into a program where Safeco was still finding its way and making some really good progress in areas up in the north area, Roebla Creek, Dry Creek, and the NIMDAC, the Natomas East Main Drainage Canal projects, I think were already started somewhat. But there was a number of levee efforts that John came into. And as the existing executive director indicated, they were putting together a plan, a formulation of a plan. They called it the Backbone Plan. And that Backbone Plan was a couple of different stages. It was a matter of wanting to make sure that the mission of Safeco was to achieve high level of flood protection. The highest priority was public safety and protection of property from the Sacramento and American rivers. And then there were 3 stages of the level of what they were prioritizing. So the first one was levee stability, interim protection, and of course, 200-year level of protection. So that simple backbone program was, I think, something that John took to heart. I think you've been doing it ever since. I think it's still the same scenario. And it's taken a lot of backbone to get through this process, hasn't it, John? So I would say that, John, I was writing the resolution and I was trying to, get it just right. Because, this is somebody that has dedicated his career to this community and this effort. And ultimately, it got to the point where I was like, okay, I think I got it. And I passed it around to some others. And everybody said, you didn't talk about his sense of humor. And I said, he doesn't have one. But that is not true. John has a wonderful sense of humor. He's a great individual. I don't know what's going on, though, but he says he doesn't like Snickers bars. He prefers something without nuts. And we have this conversation constantly in the office. And the staff, I think everybody tends to flock to John because this is the guy that has been working on these projects forever. Now, he's also the guy that got rid of the cookie thing that we used to do every Christmas. And it's because we didn't want to be doing resolutions of necessity and then going back and eating cookies. Because during those times, for that holiday season, we had to produce the real estate for these projects. And John has been a stalwart. He's been the individual that just keeps driving. His work ethic is just incredible. His diligence, intelligence, everything about his workday has purpose. And he has been able to make sure that the Natomas community is going to get the best project that they can to protect them from those floodwaters coming from the Sacramento River, the American River, the east side of the Natomas Basin, as well as from up above on the Cross Canal, and making sure that that community is going to be protected and also protected from other influences that could potentially break that up and make it not nearly as good. So I don't know how to simply say this, but John has been the individual, not only the longest individual at Safeco, but the individual that has provided that backbone for the agency. As we see the departures, we see the faces change, we all seek out John to make sure that we're understanding where did we get this? How did this piece of land get acquired? How did this piece of, mitigation occur? How did we get onto this next piece of the flood protection that is going to influence some other stream? I mean, it's constantly that we are seeking him out to get to the point where, this is what happened. And the problem we really have is that we talk about a piece of property, and he says, well, here's the APN number off the top of his head. And it doesn't matter where you're at in the Thomas Basin, he pretty much pulls that out. But again, John Bassett has been spending his time making sure that the community is safe. He has been spending his time making sure that our community in Safeco is getting the right step forward. He is making sure that we are all going to be able to be successful going forward. And I have to say, John, over the past 10 years, I don't think that I would have been able to figure out any of these things regarding Natomas and the work that you've done, or any of the other components that fit into the Natomas project, but also the other areas that you've worked. We're going to miss you. And with that, I'm going to turn it over.
Before I go to the board, I just want to say that it often falls upon the chair to say nice things when somebody leaves. So I was prepared to do so. But damn, Jason. So well said, and thank you, John. Director Rodriguez.
John, I just want to, I always like to take the opportunity to thank individuals who retire, who have spent a career serving the Sacramento County. And so I just want to say thank you for your work and what you've done for these communities. And I wish you all the best in retirement, and have fun.
Vice Chair Holloway.
I just wanted to say, John, thank you very much for your many, many years of very diligent work. I think you were the first person at Safeco I ever met, and always the person that I generally call when I have a question. And you always pick up the phone, which was a lovely thing. And you always provide us with a very detailed and thorough explanation, and always with a smile. And you are so appreciated by all of us. And I just want to say congratulations on your retirement, and I'm very pleased that you're going to be staying with us a little longer.
Any others?
And I'd be pleased to move the item.
The chair will second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Thank you. Next item, please.
Can we have John come up and maybe say a word, and I can take a picture?
Well, he's going to be gone for about 30 seconds here.
Should we do a photo with all of us?
After John speaks, why don't we get in the well and do a photo with everybody? John, make your comments about half as long as your resolutions.
That's the fun part. That explains everything why we're doing something. I thank you. Yes, it's been interesting going through all the problems and progress and projects that we have. Hasn't just been Natomas. I've worked down in the Pocket area, worked along the American River, just about anywhere up at Folsom also. So I've covered just about all the different areas that Safeco has done work in. So it's been interesting, and it's been fun, and appreciate the board supporting all the things we do over the years and moving the projects forward also. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Let's go down and get a photo, everybody.
Well, I don't know who's taking your place on everything, but somebody has to pick up fixing everything in the office that breaks that I bring to you.
And just so you know, my wife over here in the yellow dress came to accompany me today.
We should have a picture of you guys, too. Winch. Okay. Cheese. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
I thought you felt like in the prom photo there, maybe. What's that? I thought you like that big photo. Yeah, that's good. Wait, where's the corsage? They were showing the corsage. They were totally not wrapping your responsibility.
Yeah, totally. They were totally not. Like, show the corsage. It's very good. Hack my phone. We paid extra for that.
I'd check the photos if I were there. Okay, next item, please,
next
which
item
should be very
then.
anticlimactic at this point.
Item 16, resolution number 2026-023, findings in support of the exception to the 180-day wait period required pursuant to California Government Code Sections 752256 and 21224, and authorizing the execution of retired annuity employment agreement with John Bassett.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
there was a woman in a yellow dress that said we should not waive this 180 days. It should be enforced. Is that right? I would move the item.
All right, we have a motion second. Any other comments? No public comment? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Thank you very much. Welcome back, John. All right, our next meeting is on March 19th. We're adjourned.